Okay, so today we're going to start talking about parabolas, and you'll notice that in your first few slides there's a lot of information. I'm not going to go through any of this information about these slides. You can look at them later. I'm going to actually teach the information in the context of our problems. So if you want to go back, there's a lot of great information. Talks about what a focus is, talks about what a directrix is. And as you look at these things, you'll find out that like most things in math, we have standard forms. We have a standard form of a parabola if it's opening vertically. We have a standard form of a parabola if it's opening horizontally. So we're going to be talking about both of those in our class today. And then in the next slide, they give us more information. They like to talk about parabolas in 4 different situations. Basically, what I want you to know is that if you're looking at this kind of a parabola where your x thing is being squared, notice how the squared parentheses is always on the left. And then that means that you have a vertical parabola, one that looks like this, or like this. And then in the second group, in the next set of slides, you'll notice that you have a y squared parentheses on the left, which is indicating that you have parabolas that might open to your left or might open to your right. And we'll see each of those kinds in the context of doing some problems. And when you do these parabolas, it always needs to be in standard form in order to graph them accurately. So on your exam, remember I always model what I want to see. So you're going to do it the same way that I do it. First of all, whenever you're dealing with an x squared graph, the standard form always looks like the following. X minus h squared equals 4p parentheses y minus k. And that's because we're going to be talking about our vertex, and our vertex is hk. So in order to do that, I'm going to rearrange the equation that they give me in this first problem, and I'm going to put it in that standard form. Since I see that I have an x squared, I'm going to start off by rewriting this as 1/2 parentheses x minus 0 squared equals parentheses y minus 0. Now, do I really need those zeros there? No, but it's definitely going to help me out later on. So what I want you to know at this point is I'm still not in the standard format. The standard format shows me that on the left-hand side I have a squared parentheses, and on the right-hand side everything else is going on with a different parentheses that's not being squared. And what I notice is that I have this 1/2 here. I don't really want this 1/2 here. So I'm going to get rid of this 1/2 because I'm not supposed to have a number in front of the parentheses that's on the left that's being squared. So in order to do that, I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. So I multiply this side by 2 and I multiply this side by 2. That means I now have x minus 0 squared equals 2 times parentheses y minus 0. In parabolas, it's extremely important to understand that everything is based off your vertex. You need to find your vertex first. If you don't find your vertex, you are screwed. So that's why you always want to put stuff in its standard form. My vertex in this particular case is whatever makes my parentheses 0, whatever makes the x parentheses 0, which would be 0, whatever makes the y parentheses 0, which is 0. And so now I know my vertex. So when you're looking at these things, they're going to tell you the things that you want. You want your vertex, your focus, your directrix, and an axis of symmetry. I will show you how to do all of those things. It is now probably going to be helpful to actually draw a coordinate axis system. So I would draw that coordinate axis system, and I will place my vertex where it belongs at the origin. Again, everything's going to be based on this vertex. Knowing that I have my vertex now, I look at the number that's in front of my non-squared parentheses. I notice that it's positive. Since it's positive, and this is a vertical parabola, that is telling me that my parabola is going to be opening up. So not only can I draw this thing, but I can draw it knowing that my parabola opens up. That again is because I saw that my number in front of the non-squared parentheses was positive. So now I've labeled my vertex, that was in the pink. I now need an axis of symmetry. That's what I'm going to do next. An axis of symmetry which I abbreviate as AOS, is a line. It's the line where you can fold your parabola in half. So I look over here and I notice that if I go right down the y-axis in this case, I could fold that parabola onto itself. That is the axis of symmetry. It is an equation, and this equation is x equals 0. So my axis of symmetry is x equals 0. After you put down your vertex and your axis of symmetry, the most important thing that you can do next is to find p. Not the kind in the toilet, but the kind in your equation. If you look back up at the standard form of this equation, what you'll notice is that on the right-hand side, you see this thing called 4p. 4p is the number that's in front of the non-squared parentheses on the right. What that's telling me is that when I look at my equation that I see in red, the 2 that I have in front of that non-squared parentheses is the same thing as the 4p would be in front of the one up in the blue general form. So I set those two things equal to each other to find out what p is. What's p?
1/2.
P is 1/2. What does this mean? This means that both your focus and your directrix will be 1/2 unit from your vertex. Both your focus and your directrix will be 1/2 unit from your vertex because everything's based on the vertex. You probably wrote that down. The P tells you that everything will be 1/2 unit from your vertex, both the focus and the directrix. And I'll show you what that means momentarily. The P, which is talking about how far you are from your vertex for your focus, in order to find your focus, you are going to go from your vertex inside the parabola 1/2 unit. That means that my focus is somewhere in here. To find that focus, 1/2 unit inside, you need to know where your vertex is. Oh look, my vertex was at 0, 0. If I go up 1/2 unit and I find that value for my focus, that means that that focus value that I find is going to be at 0, 1/2. Because it's a 1/2 unit up from my vertex. My directrix is a line on the outside of my parabola. It's a line that your parabola will never go through. It looks like this. This is my directrix. Guess how far away from your vertex the directrix is? 1/2. So I know this is 1/2 of a unit. I know this is 1/2 of a unit. The directrix, like the axis of symmetry, is a line. So if I want the equation of my directrix, it is going to be y equals negative 1/2. Because that's the equation of the line, that's a 1/2 a unit below my vertex, that's horizontal. Example number 2. What is everything based off of in a parabola? The vertex. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write down my vertex. So my vertex in this case is going to be at negative 1/2, comma 1. I go to my graph. I can start graphing some stuff here. And my vertex was at negative 1/2, 1, which is right about here. The next question I would have is, which way is my parabola opening? Up, down, left, or right? So I noticed two things. Number one, that the 4 in front of the non-squared parentheses is positive, and 2, that my x is being squared. This tells me that I'm going to have some kind of parabola that is a vertical parabola opening up in the positive direction. Already, that means I can draw my parabola like so. It is a vertical parabola opening up because the 4 was positive and the x parentheses on the left was squared. Next, after I find my vertex, I like to find the axis of symmetry. So the axis of symmetry will always go through the vertex, and it's where you can fold your parabola in half. It is an equation of a line. In this case, my axis of symmetry will be x equals -1/2 because that is the x-coordinate of the vertex. After I find my vertex and my axis of symmetry, I like to find the p. I know that when I look for the p, the number in front of the non-squared parentheses will always be equal to 4p. So I set my 4, that's in front of the non-squared parentheses, equal to 4p. When I solve that, I find out that my p is equal to 1. This means that both my focus and my directrix will be 1 unit away from my vertex. If we talk specifically about the focus, that means that my focus will be 1 unit inside of my parabola from the vertex. Or in other words, right here. That means my focus went 1 unit above or up from my vertex. My focus then has the coordinate -1/2, comma 2. My directrix, on the other hand, will be 1 unit below the vertex in this case, or on the outside of my parabola. Remember that according to Carly, it is perpendicular to my axis of symmetry. So 1 unit below means I have the horizontal line, and in this case, that means that my directrix has to have the equation y equals 0. Notice that both your axis of symmetry and your directrix are equations. On your test that comes up, you must have equations, x or y equals. If you don't have that, you are going to be wrong. Notice that your vertex and your focus are both coordinates. If you don't have coordinates with parentheses and a comma in between, you are wrong. On your test, I will be looking for the vertex, the axis of symmetry, the p-value, the f for focus, the directrix, and the picture. Oh, no. In number 3, what's different? Joe.
Y is squared.
Y is squared. I like that. What else? Tristan.
Everything